Hi, my name's Guy. I work in the buying team and also in the sales team at Corney and Barrow, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the 2020 Burgundy vintage, specifically about the Côte de Nuits, which is the northern half of the Côte d'Or, so the northern half of Burgundy, where the Pinot Noir comes from, by and large. So these are the great Pinot Noir vineyards of Burgundy, and really some of the best wines of the world as well. We've just got back from 2 weeks of tasting the wines in Burgundy, and the first thing to say is that it's a seriously exciting vintage for both Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, both red wines and white wines. But specifically, I want to talk about the Côte de Nuits and therefore about Pinot Noir. The first thing to say about the 2020 vintage was that it was a warm summer, but it hasn't been a fruity, very demonstrative year in the same way that other recent vintages maybe have been. This is a year where you have the aromatic finesse, you have the terroir definition of each village as you go from different plot to plot. You can really see the marked differences in character. And you do have a phenomenal intensity and power in the wines as well. So I think we're really looking at a very, very exciting red Burgundy vintage, white as well, but we're here to talk about the reds. In terms of the character of the season versus other recent vintages, the 2018 vintage was more fruit forward. There was a warm, consistently warm summer, which has given the wines a lovely, fleshy exuberance to them. By contrast, the 19 vintage has a real intensity to it, and it has a sort of power. And the temperatures in the 2019 vintage were significantly higher than they were in 2020. So at the height of the growing season's peak temperature-wise in August, you were seeing temperatures above 40 degrees in 2019. By contrast, in 2018, the same period was in the mid-30s. So it was more moderate, and it didn't have the sort of spikes of warm and less warm that we saw in 2019. Now, what does that mean for the character of the wines? Well, it means that there is this phenomenal differentiation of terroirs, if you like, in 2020, which I think is one of the marks of the vintage. The big challenge of the growing season was the heat of the season in August and the access to water. Now, fortunately, the soils were very hydrated because there was a wet, cool winter which went before the 2020 vintage, and this has really given the vines access to water in most places. However, there were some regions where there was a little bit of stress due to not enough water during the summer. I think it is important in 2020 to seek out the soils which have resisted against the summer drought. One thing which is a factor in Burgundy now, and has been the case for the past few vintages, is that prices are going up and up. The wines are becoming more and more expensive as demand goes up, as we've seen some very small vintages as well. 2021, which is coming next year, is going to be a tiny vintage, and there will be a reality in terms of pricing with that. So I think the time is really perfect to look at some of the better value, if you like, areas of Burgundy. And if you look at little enclaves in the Côte de Nuits, such as Marcenay or Courgaulois, where we work with a grower called Domaine Gilles Jourdan, which is fantastic wines, and also up in the Haute Côte de Nuits, I think a lot of these regions are producing wines which are fantastic value for money, and you don't need to spend an absolute fortune to get some really good quality Pinot Noir from the Côte de Nuits. That's a little overview of the growing season, of the vintage, and of our thoughts. Please do read our notes on our Burgundy Hub, which is going to go live very shortly. And also pick up the phone or drop us an email. Our sales teams are here to help and are very willing to talk about all things Burgundy.